Welcome back to Men Without Masks podcast. This is episode 9, and today what we're going to go through is a little bit deeper into my story and Lee's story on a personal level, especially around our relationship with health and fitness through school, through college, through early adulthood up until now, and into other topics about what our personal and professional values are. So if you ever wanted to get an idea of who we are as individuals and our essence as individuals, then this is a great episode for that. So we're going to go straight into the early days. We're going to talk about early childhood and what our earliest memories are on the health and fitness journey and what led us to being professionals. So Lee, I'm going to ask you, what is your earliest memory involving your body, how it looked, how it felt, and how it moved?
That's a great question. I haven't thought about that in a long time. I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is probably early secondary school, and it was just all of a sudden you were starting to do more on your weekends. You were starting to go out. You were starting to care more how you looked, right? Because you know yourself, secondary school, it's all about image and what people think of you, or at least that's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
But I just remember all of a sudden you were on busier weekends, trying to wear tighter clothes, and like, none of this feels good. Don't look good. The confidence isn't there. You know what I mean? And that was probably the start of it. Up until that point, I don't think you just didn't really care. Don't think I cared as much as there wasn't any actual attention brought towards these things. Whereas I find from secondary school onwards, it was hyper vigilance around it, because it was a competition, right? Even if no one meant it to, it was all about trying to be one of the cool kids. It's all about trying to look a certain way, be part of a certain group, be seen as a certain person. And for me, it all stemmed from that. And I remember as young as 12 and 13, it was like, I'm not happy with how I looked. Now, I didn't necessarily know at that point that it was all changeable, or that how you could change it. So a lot of it for me was just hiding away. It was wearing things and that was oversized. It was constantly dressing up so you couldn't actually see. And even then I remember there'd be nights out and it was like you'd be standing there a full night, and this sounds stupid, you'd be standing there a full night sucking everything in, right? Mm-hmm. Trying to make yourself feel better. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because you say these things and now it sounds stupid, right? It sounds like, right, it's gas. But back then, like, those things went on to then shape what was years of kind of body confidence, what was years of kind of disordered eating, all these different habits and trends. And when you look back at where it all started from, it's crazy because you don't realize it. We don't realize it at the time. Now, for me, confidence would never have been something I had when I was younger. So it all came from kind of a point of wanting that external validation, that external approval, because I wasn't happy within myself and because I didn't like how I looked, or there was no internal kind of contentment. It was like, right, well, let's try get it from somewhere external. And that's what it stemmed from, the confidence, the body image issues. It was years and years and years. And it's something that even still, there'd be days there where it's like, right, even when you look back 10 years ago, completely different person, but you still feel those kind of thoughts creeping in, doubts kicking in. So I think it's nature of the game, though, because that's the crazy thing is, like, even some of the best clients I have that make the best transformations, they still have it. But I think the difference is you also have the certainty in knowing who you are now, and that those things don't actually hold any sway or as much sway, and that you're also taking all the actions towards kind of remedying it. But yeah, it was a solid build up year after year, all those kind of old undealt with issues. And yeah, crazy, absolutely crazy when you think back to it, because we don't realize the level of impact that it can actually have. And how it inevitably, which we'll touch on later, went on to shape to follow the years thereafter.
So in primary school, you've no memory of having those thoughts. It only kind of started to happen around secondary school, was it?
Yeah, I believe so. Now, look, I'm sure kind of towards the end of primary there probably was, but I was in quite a small primary school, and there was no it was a very close-knit group and a school in general. So I don't actually remember there being much in the way of that sort of kind of thought or negativity. Like, I was fortunate that my primary school was a very nice place to be. At least that's what I thought. Everyone's going to have different opinions, of course, but there was never anything about image or how anyone looked. Not one thing. It was, and it was a very kind of varied class. A lot of people from different backgrounds, different ethnicities. So from day one, everyone was just like, oh, everyone is how they are. Secondary school was really where it kicked in for me. What about yourself, though?
Yeah, well, you know, my experience was actually the complete opposite. Whereas I was always so skinny. I was always, I would say I was most definitely the skinniest guy in the class at the time. Especially in that fifth class, sixth class. If you're from the UAE or you don't know what that is, so you're like 11, 12, going into secondary school at 13, kind of around those years. And I just wasn't sporty as well at the time, you know what I mean? Like, man, I remember some of my classmates used to be down the road playing for Hibs Football Club, which is a local club, and like, I just was not put into sport at a young age. We actually were into hurling, lasted about a week or two, just didn't work out, whatever. Went there with my brother didn't like it. I wasn't fond of it. That was it. Went into jiu-jitsu then. We were like 9, 8. And jiu-jitsu wasn't serving you well as an 8-year-old. Like, you know, if you were getting picked on in school, you weren't going to give a fella a hip toss. Like, you needed to learn that it was okay to take a smack, but it was okay to give a smack as well. You know what I mean? So, you ain't going to be tossing fellas over you. But it was around those times where, you know, it was like, all right, you're not to be the bully, but you need to make sure that you're not the one getting bullied. Like, you know, me and one of my best mates, Graham, a funny story is that we always, at his wedding, I was his best man, right? And one of the stories was how me and Graham actually became friends. Is that first he used to bully me, right? Go around with a few of the tough fellas, like, and Graham wasn't tough either. Like, he was just buzzing because he was with the tough fellas because he lived near them, right? So he used to give you all the smack. But when a fella used to give you a deadener or whatever, he'd be like, "Oh, you're so skinny" or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And I was thinking about this before the podcast. I was like, that was kind of my first awareness of, oh man, maybe I am, you know, skinny and weak and all that. And going into secondary school, it was definitely more obvious, compared to other kids who were playing sports since they're 4 years old, you know, where I wasn't.
Yeah.
And just, it honestly is one of my, I say it all the time, it's like one of my biggest life regrets, man, is just not getting into sport earlier. You know what I mean? I say it to my mother all the time. I was like, what were you doing with me when I was 6? You know what I mean? Like, throw me down to the local football club, boxing club, you name it. You know what I mean? But it wasn't until I was 15 and some friends in school were like, hey, do you want to come down to the local boxing club, or do you want to come down to the football club, or starting a new team or whatever? I only used to play football out in the street with one of my mates, you know. So I was like, yeah. So it wasn't until it was a kind of a friendship thing that I started to get into sport, and I just fell in love with it at the age of 15 and never ever stopped. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, man, I would say it was environment, taking deadeners off the boys in the yard and being told you were skinny. Being told like all the time, like, David, you're so skinny, like, you know what I mean? But I used to never eat me dinner, man. I used to never eat me dinner. Like, that's the funniest thing. From a fellow who's saying he's never played sport, when I was a kid, I used to always play outside the door, which I think we're probably the last generation to do so. What a blessing. But I used to always play football out in the green outside the house. Get called in for the dinner, and I used to sit there, eat 2 or 3 spoonfuls, whatever it is, just sit there for the half an hour. My mother was like, you're eating that now? I was like, I can't, it's cold. I just want to go back outside. She just put it in the microwave. You better eat now. So she was obviously trying to bulk me up or whatever. Like, I just didn't want to eat. I just wanted to be outside playing the whole time. And there you go, skin and bone.
And how do you reckon then, Dave, how do you reckon that kind of shaped the later years, the years that came after this? Was it something that like mentally really got in on you? How did you handle it? What did you do? Did you just avoid it?
Yeah, and I'll tell you another thing, man. Like that came again at a time, right? So, you know, you're 13, getting up to 13, you know, getting into those teenage years, you start thinking about girls and stuff like that. It starts to happen around that age, you know, or it did for me anyway. So, you know, when we used to play outside and all that, we used to hang around with groups of girls and vice versa and stuff like that. So definitely probably started to think about it more then. Do you know what I mean? And then when I got into training at 15, confidence definitely improved by, I can't even put a number on it, man, by an enormous amount, you know, and I'd like to think I was never egotistical or anything like that. So it just served me really, really well at that age. But then I dislocated my shoulder at around 18, and I was in a transition away from boxing towards football. And then I kind of stopped football for a little while, and then I was working in a call centre full time, and I was just out every weekend drinking, as you do as a young adult, you know what I mean? And it was around that time that I started to lose a lot of weight again, and I was like,
Yeah.
and these are some of the pictures that are on my social media, yeah, and I was just like, Jesus, man, you haven't been this skinny in a long time. And that's when it kind of hit me again, that the confidence was kind of rocked a little. And even now, man, like getting into the gym, like it was just to not be skinny, you know, it was to change that. It was literally just to not be skinny. That's how it started. And then powerlifting and CrossFit for 8 years or whatever. And now I'm back into the bodybuilding now again, because I always knew, I was like, I never finished that project, you know what I mean? And now that I'm kind of, you know, not in the right environment for CrossFit, I think that's the season that I'm in right now. I know when I experience the right environment for CrossFit again, I'll probably fall in love with it again, coaching and training. But while this season is presented to me, I am going to finish Project Skinny Kid. So it's still impacting me today, put it that way. I'm a 32-year-old man,
that's crazy.
you know, where some people might say, geez, man, you're looking great, you're in good shape. And in my mind, I'm like, no, it's not enough, you know. And that's a psychological limitation of mine. That's not to say, look at me doing bodybuilding. No, it comes from a place of insecurity. Do you know what I mean? So I would say through seasons, man.
I want to ask you a question on that. So you say it comes from a place of insecurity. Does it still truly come from this place of insecurity, or does it more so come from a place of kind of potential?
Yeah. More so these days it is more that, and I just love it, man. Like that's the whole thing. Like I was trying to still train the CrossFit a year or two ago, not in the right gym, not in the right environment. The gym that I got a new job in back then, I'm still training in that same gym now. It's kind of like a CrossFit-y, it's not much of a CrossFit-y gym. It's more of a bodybuilding / hybrid gym, right? Yeah. And again, the environment, and I was trying to do CrossFit, and you're trying to do CrossFit workouts in there. It's like trying to do CrossFit in a Globo gym, you know, it's near impossible. So I was getting frustrated at that, and I just kept finding myself over at the dumbbell rack. And I was like, listen, I'm really enjoying this. I can pretend that I'm still loving the CrossFit training, because I'm not. You know, I can pretend, or I can just lean into what I just naturally do. You know, CrossFit and all that is amazing. When you have an upcoming competition or something like that, you will train and you will not miss a session. You will train intently. But if you don't have any competitions, you're kind of out of that loop, which I am right now. I'm just like, I'm enjoying, I feel mentally amazing recently doing this bodybuilding and conditioning thing. I'm just doing bodybuilding and doing conditioning on separate days, or I might do conditioning at the end. And that's how most people train. So although it may be started from a place of insecurity, might be a bit dabble of that, just mentally I just feel amazing, and I physically I feel amazing as well, in regards to less joint pain. Like my DOMS is way less doing bodybuilding than it is CrossFit. That might be a very obvious statement, but so yeah, man, I am enjoying it. I gotta say, mentally, physically, emotionally, it's a blessing. I know that's what it's doing for me right now. You know, what do you think?
I'd be very much the same. I'm bodybuilding. I have for the last number of years. It's kind of the main thing. It was always the main thing for me. I just enjoy the challenge, right? I'm a competitive person, and with something like that, it's you against you. So for me, in a roundabout way, for someone who was always used to, like, grew up comparing and thinking of others and looking for that external validation, it's actually a nice close circle for me, because now this bodybuilding game is, right, now it's me against me. It's me trying to be the best version of me and to beat the old version. Like, I personally don't really care anymore what anyone thinks or how I look or what I do or what I say. It doesn't really bother me.
Yep.
So that in and of itself was probably the biggest shift for me. And now it's really a case of, right, it's potential. It's like, right, well, I look at the years that I could have been more productive, the years that I wasted. But again, similar to yourself, I was kind of arsing around, drinks and all that, kind of the social side of things. Whereas now I'm as happy as I've ever been. Physically, I'm feeling as put together as I've ever been. which is saying something because I used to be getting injured left, right, and centre. And it's just giving me that clarity. You know what I mean? I'm someone who needs kind of extreme structure in my day and in my life to just to operate at the level I want to, but also mentally to feel that I'm sound. Like, I find if things start getting a small bit disorganized, and I don't mean, like, say if I'm like on a break or day off, different story, but I just find if I don't have that kind of routine and regiment, that I just find mentally I'll start dropping, because I just know I won't be doing the things that I need to keep myself in that position. And yeah, like some people might say you shouldn't need to be that way inclined, and I said absolutely true, but I found what works. And for me, having that structure in play across my work, across my training, across my nutrition, still leaves plenty of room for fun. Now, I'm always up for a bit of fun as well, but what it's given me has been so much more than what some people might think it takes away from you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. It definitely serves, when I think about my relationship with training and stuff like that, it's just the serving that it does, the positive impacts that it has on life. And there was even this one study that came out in the last 5 years, and it's almost like such a coincidence, right? Like, we get into this to get in better shape and blah, 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 whatever reason you start, right? But then over the last, again, 5 years and 10 years, and all the science and the research of how good this stuff is for you, it's just a beautiful coincidence for us. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, this is actually one of the most valuable things on planet Earth you could do. Yeah. Buzzing, do you know? But the thing I was talking about is intelligence, or at least the cognitive benefits, right? Like, every school report I had, man, has more potential. Not applying himself. Could do more, but he's not applying himself. Like, blah, blah, blah. So all the teachers seen these little glimpses of hope, you know what I mean? And I really didn't get anywhere close to that until I was full-time, like, training and started the PT thing, and I just smashed it from there. Do you know what I mean? But school was absolutely below average, so I absolutely love that. Some people, I again, like I said, I love training. I do need that structure as well. And, I train 5 days a week. I rest 2 days a week. But if I get sick, like I was a month ago, I get real down in the dumps because I miss training so much, and I just miss feeling that. As amazing as I feel today and every other day that I train, I just love that. And that is the comparison. You can't feel like that good every day. But when I don't feel that good for a few days in a row, I miss it. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know if that's just getting older or 30 plus or whatever. So I'm very selective about my social weekends now as well, because I know I'm going to miss that feeling for a few days in a row.
But I think, as well as that, Dave, like, it's all the things you do in terms of eating well, moving your body, like challenging it as well. And from the chemical side of what it gives us from a neurological perspective, it is the recipe for living your best life, or feeling your best mentally, physically, living the longest. So, like, for me, why I don't engage in anything that kind of pulls me away from it now is, well, look, don't get me wrong, if there's a good weekend to be had and it requires a couple of late nights, so be it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the thing is, like, I don't want to pull myself away from just feeling good mentally the whole time. Like, especially for me, having been to the depths of fucking despair over the years, in the bottom of the barrel a couple of times, especially when I was back in school. To me, nothing is worth even slightly pulling myself in that direction.
Yeah.
So it's always a matter of, for me now, like, the physical side of it doesn't bother me, because I know whether it takes me 5 years or 10 years, I'm never going to stop lifting weights. So whatever physical goal I want is going to be got. It's because I'm taking all the actions. It's more so it's the mental clarity and security of what it gives me. If I can, and look, there's days where you don't feel so good, but I find the rebound now is quite a lot quicker, or the downtime is quite a lot quicker. You know yourself, when you kind of live that life, it's a lot easier to take the shit that goes wrong. It's a lot easier bounce back, because, and this is something I, even with clients, and I've worked with a client through, he had a bereavement not so long ago, and even with that, we still, and I said to him, I said, look, like, what do you need here? Like, what do you actually think is possible? And he said, what do you think? I said, look, if I'm going to be honest, I still think, even through times like this, prioritizing yourself, even if it's just your food and water, and getting some level of movement in your day, is going to pay dividends. Because what it does is it allows you to then be able to work through and handle the actual trauma of the time that you're dealing. And I've seen it time and time again. The people that still manage to keep some level of these things in play, and I'm not saying like rigidly tracking, but just taking steps towards it, they handle what goes wrong so much better. They bounce back so much quicker. They can reconcile. They can just work through it. I think it's massive, and it's something that's so underrated as well.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%. Like when you said that, man, it actually brings me back to a time where my grandmother passed away, and we're out of work for the couple of days, 2 to 4 days or whatever it was, and we all got the news, and she was the rock of the family. And then I remember being at home, we're all just kind of sitting around, and you're just waiting for the funeral, like in 2 or 3 days,
Yeah.
whenever it is, and it's just that nothing, that time of nothingness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, and again, I was really falling in love with the gym. I was just about to go on this career path as well, and I think my mother, I said to my mother, I'm thinking about going to the gym, but I feel guilty. And she was just like, why? I was like, I don't know, but Nanny just passed away. Like, and she was just like,
Yeah.
well, this is what makes you feel good, so go and do it. Like, you're otherwise just going to be sitting here looking at the four walls. Like, and lo and behold, I did. I went to the gym, and it really, really did help her in that time. You know what I mean? So it is a tool of stress resilience, but I think it was just around how we frame it. I think I talked about this last week as well. It's not just about vanity, like the emotional, mental stress I had at that time, that was my coping mechanism. You know what I mean? And when you think about the other coping mechanisms that you could have, engaged in.
Beat me to it.
Yeah, what a phenomenal tool to have in your toolbox, when life does get hard.
Alongside that as well, 100%, and alongside that as well, as men, like we need some like strong physical output. So if all of a sudden, for at that stage, maybe I know you were saying yourself, it's only the past couple of years, like you've really gotten in tune emotionally and mentally. Maybe at that time it was a bit tougher. All of a sudden you can go put yourself through a hard workout. You can take out all your frustration, all your anger, of which there's plenty, even with the best reasoning. And it's unbelievable. Again, like it's invaluable, I find, especially for times like that.
Yep, love it. There's one thing I want to touch on with you, man, and that's what was your early years like in regards to sport and your relationship with your body and your relationship with physical performance, let's say. Were you a sporty kid in primary school, or were you like an indoor kid like I was? So what was your early years like, and what was the impacts that it had on you going forward up to today?
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned that, because I started rugby when I was 11. I hadn't played anything up until that point, but there was always a school friend of mine, and his dad was a rugby coach, and from as soon as I was like 6 and able to actually like play rugby underage, every time he would see the parents like, why don't you send him down? Why don't you send him down? Now, for years they didn't, because they didn't believe in pushing like me or anyone into it. I just came home. I was always active. I loved sports. I loved PE in school. I was competitive. Even at that point, like I had to win everything, and hasn't left. But that came along then. It was a game changer, because I was also a very angry child. I was a very angry teenager. I would have had a terrible temper, and a lot of it would have just came from just not knowing how to express it or how to deal with the emotions inside my head. But rugby was, for me, the perfect solution. You're telling me that I can go out and hit someone as hard as I possibly can and get away with it. Sign me up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what it started off at. It was just an outlet for me. Now, I happened to be pretty handy at it, so again, it became a passion. But I would say even most of the way through underage, it was an outlet for emotion. It was an outlet for anger. Like if I had a week where I wasn't training or playing rugby, I hadn't got to hit someone in that manner, and I could feel myself. I was snapping more. I was, you know what I mean? I was very, very angry kid and teenager. So that's what it was for me. After that, then played football, tried a bit of soccer. I was never any good at it. And sport was everything then. It was everything, because it was the outlet that I had been missing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It was crazy.
So what about the fitness culture that we're in now? Exercise, gym, weights, that kind of culture. So bodybuilding path that you're on now. So when did that kind of start for you?
So I was 17 or 18, and I actually started with a PT. Again, it all came from the insecurity of not looking how I wanted to look, feeling weak, thinking, oh, I just want to look better. For the most part, it was vanity at the beginning. That's all it was. But then, kind of just slowly developed a passion for it. Now, I also would have had struggled with binge eating when I was kind of later in my teenage years. Again, it was just a coping mechanism, emotional eating. Obviously, looking back now, it's easy to spot these things and explain it. Back then, didn't have a clue. All I knew was, right, well, I feel shit, so I'm going to eat as much as I possibly can. You know what I mean? But it slowly just kind of blossomed from there. Like, I was the same as you in school. I never put any effort in. I don't go out well in my leaving cert, even with no study, just by turning up.
You done well.
I done well enough.
How many points did you get?
380, I think.
That's unbelievable, man. I got 285, man, or 265 or something like that. And oh man, I won't take over your story, but it's just mental, isn't it? Like,
but that was it. But that aside, that's all I heard underage was like, there's more potential, there's more in him. He just doesn't apply himself. Blah 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 blah. And I was like, right. Looking back now, like, I didn't have any interest in any of the things I was meant to apply myself to, similar to yourself. But then fitness, like, I actually really like this, and this is my way out. Like, all of a sudden now, I wouldn't say it was a complete clean break. There was drinking, and kind of that was the depths of when I mentally was not doing so well. So I definitely think, had I not had it at that time, like, as tight as things got, it would have looked, who knows what would have happened. You know what I mean? And from there, that was kind of turning point. I was like, right, this is the avenue, this is the vehicle, like we love referencing, to the life that I want. Now, how does that look? It looks different every year that passes, right, with everything that happens. Yeah. But that's where it came from. It slowly just came from a vanity perspective, then mentally it started giving me more and more. It gave me a career, it's given me the opportunity and the possibility to create and become everything I ever said I wanted. And actually, funny enough, so even the whole way through school, when I was constantly being told that, like, I was more potential, I never had any idea what I wanted to do, except I want my own business, which made no sense for someone who didn't give a toss about anything, didn't try. But that's where it all came from. And so that's what it was giving me. It is just giving me kind of that, I wouldn't say it's given me that mental clarity, but it has just allowed me to be able to work on all these different aspects, because I believe Martin Brady said as well, like, how we are physically massively impacts how we are mentally, and I don't think you can really have one without the other. And now doesn't mean just because you have it physically doesn't mean you're going to be doing okay mentally. You still have to do the work. But for me, it was just that way out. It was a more positive lifestyle. It's the perfect life on paper from a nutrition, lifestyle, mental perspective, and from there, year after year, it just gets better and better. It's at the point now where nothing was really tough. Like, even the tough times that you were talking about before we hopped on, like, yeah, they're tough, but they're nothing compared to how things were. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And just like now, just like you mentioned, like, it doesn't matter what way the week goes, how I'm feeling, even if it's weeks or months upon months. Nutrition doesn't really change. Training doesn't really change. Doesn't get missed. Nutrition is pretty much on point. So now I'm at a point where, regardless of the emotions that are in play, like, operation is still, I'm not going to say it 100% because it isn't on those weeks, but it's at 70 or 80 compared to what would have been a 0 to 10%. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love it, man. I think I touched on it last time, I think, but it's just kind of turning the dial up or down in training, movement, nutrition. And the goal is to try never have it at a 0 for a prolonged period of time, you know. Example, this morning, woke up, a couple of meetings on the calendar, I had this, programs to do, etc., and then I was like, I had a kind of a meeting come out of nowhere. So I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get to train today. But I was like, wait, if I go to the gym and I know I've only 45 minutes, I know I'm just going to rest less and superset more. And I'm going to spend less time dicking around in my warm-up and just get my body temperature up, 1 to 2 warm-up sets and go. And that's what I did. And lo and behold, this happens every Wednesday, doesn't it? Every Wednesday I come to you on this podcast. I'm like, the short training session, but I feel amazing.
One of the best sessions. Yeah, exactly.
Like, I feel amazing. So it's just about turning that. I just turned that dial down, instead of again a 2 hour training session. I gave that 45 minutes that I could, made as little eye contact as I could to people that I know in there, to talk less, and got it done. You know what I mean? Much like you're saying there. It's the same with the nutrition. You know what I mean? Just have your nutrition principles in your mind, apply them as best you can with the environment and time and financial responsibilities that you have at that time, so always something you can do instead of all or nothing. You know what I mean? It's the all or nothing people that don't move forward too much, man. The people who have that always something mindset are always, they're getting that 1% every day,
and that's it. And I think a lot of that comes from, because obviously I referenced being able to just operate like independent of emotion. That isn't just ignoring them. That's not what I'm trying to say either, just for anyone who's listening. That is just having actual clarity and awareness around how you respond in certain situations, around certain emotions, knowing that, right, that isn't the action that's needed. You know what I mean? That you need to understand, you need to have awareness around your own emotions, how you deal, how you respond, how you react. And then it's a lot easier to understand, right, I did this because I felt like this. Well, that makes sense. That's a pattern, and you can interrupt it.
Yeah.
But what about yourself, Dave? So, like the whole fitness culture. So we've obviously been on very different journeys, but the likes of, where did it come from you? Where did it lead to? And like what kind of path has it put you on?
Yeah. So when it comes to like fitness culture and that, like my first introduction to sport was football. Again, a few mates, there's a new team starting down the road, go down. It was because of friends. Went down there, positive influence. We started the team together, three or four of us, had a great time. A few months later, same fellas in the school, that same club, had a boxing club. Went down there with school friends, made best friends through that. So when I always used to reflect on the journey, it always dawned on me that for me, it was always environment and friendship based. Hence the same thing with CrossFit that's after happening. I was like, I'm going to put my everything into this, and now I'm not really loving it. It's because when I was at home in Waterford, I made best friends in the gym that I got a job in, and they were all CrossFitters, and I thought I was going to be a sports scientist, strength and conditioning coach because of college, again because of environment. So I know I'm a product of environment every time. I know that. I'm in a bodybuilding gym, a hybrid bodybuilding gym. What am I doing? 2 conditioning days. 4 to 5 bodybuilding days. I know I'm product of environment. So I just I know that I need to be intentional with the environments that I choose to spend time in, and also just know myself as well. So the name of the business, name of the program is Connected Coaching, and it just means a few things. Health to fitness to performance. It's like a graduation. You can't have one without the other, but it starts with health-based habits, then the fitness-based habits, then into performance-based habits, like a pyramid. But it's also a connection between coach and client, and it's the connection between the individual's end destination, their 2.0, their life vision, all the stuff that me and you know, Lee, and using health and fitness as a vehicle to connect to that. It's also the connection between an individual, a father to his son, a mother to her daughter. It's whatever, all through the vehicle of health and fitness. So again, it started with friends, going down to the gym because I didn't want to be skinny. Then to sports, again because of friends. Stayed in certain environments because of friends. And relationships have just always been so important to me, man. Always has been, I told myself I'd never ever get a tattoo. Hate tattoos. Best mate's wedding last summer. I was the best man. Seen a few best mates I haven't seen in a few years because they're in Australia or all over the world. Got a tattoo. And that tattoo represents the best mates that I have at home, my OG best mates. And we're all living all around the world now. Some in Ireland, some are here in the UAE, some are in Australia. So, yeah, man, in a long-winded way, it always comes down to that for me, I know when I go back home.
Though.
I love it, man. I love it. I know when I go back home to Waterford, Ireland, I see all the videos of the gym that I came from. It's changed location, it's changed names and stuff like that, but I still see the people that I love are still there. Do you know what I mean? So I know when I go home that I'm going to go straight back to there because I love those people, So it's just, I think it's a great principle of, we all know health and fitness is good for us, and you could be blue in the face and bored hearing it. But if you share that journey with the right environment, with the right people, with the right accountability buddies, it's just another method of connection, man. And I think that's why it's on the rise massively, In Australia, it's huge. Oh my God, it's massive. CrossFit is thriving in Australia because everyone does it. Everyone just has the beach and finishes work at 5 and they're up at up at 5 as well.
Yeah, yeah,
But the fitness community is thriving in some countries, you know, because of that, because it creates friendship and connection. So that's what it's all about for me, man.
yeah. And even back here over in Ireland now, like it's becoming a lot more of a prevalent thing, like in rural Ireland. Too many
Mm.
yours. Um, that there's little communities setting up, especially like on the male side of things. There's kind of like exercise groups for people who may not see anyone else elsewhere in their week other than that 1 hour. I know
Yep.
you're involved in a similar initiative yourself over in
Yeah.
UAE,
Yep.
and it's phenomenal because I think the barrier to entry is so low. Truly, it is. Like anyone can turn up and do any sort of movement and reap the benefits, but that is not what that is not the answer people will give you. If you ask them why they haven't started, they think it's too hard. They're not able for it. It's just I wouldn't fit in. Whereas if it's the exact opposite. It really and truly is. There's a place for everyone,
There really, really is
and
a
I
place for
think
everyone.
absolutely, especially in rural Ireland, especially, and it's going to be massive over the next while, because
Mm.
whether like man, woman, child, like everyone deserves a place to fit in. Everyone deserves friends, a circle, a community where they can just be themselves and be valued and be respected, which again is something that can be easier said than done and hard to find.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, man. So find your environment, lads, and if there's not an environment around you, you could be the person to start it. I mean, I'm in parks over here doing fitness sessions in parks. That's what it is, you know, with no equipment, you know, just step
Yeah.
ups on steps and tricep dips on steps and squats and push ups and you name it, man. And people are coming, and it's a wonderful thing to see people of different cultures connecting over movement and exercise, you know, especially in countries like ours, man, in Ireland, you know, like what environments are you spending time in? Is it just the pub? Is it just drinking culture? You know,
Yeah.
which we know a lot of people do. Not shaming you or guilting you for that, but you know, just also spend environments in a local fitness class, a gym, you know, a walking group, whatever the case may be, just to get that balance in as well.
Yeah.
You know, and give yourself a different environment with different people that have different interests that bring out the better side of you for the outcome that you want. You know, so that's why
Yeah.
environment is crucial,
Massive.
man. You know.
That's funny you mentioned that. At Barber not so long ago, we were just having a chat, and he was saying just like that. It used to always be you'd be meeting up with friends, you'd be spending the weekends in the pub. It's still going to complete 360. They're all meeting up for marathons and
Yeah,
going
yeah,
swimming together.
yeah.
And he laughs when he talks about it because he was just like I never would have thought that's what we'd be talking about. That's what we'd be doing. But
Mm.
isn't it phenomenal? Like that's the way it
Brilliant, man.
should be. But
Brilliant.
again, he echoed everything we said. He said, once you get a taste of what feeling good is like, and you're not carrying yourself through Monday, not coming back alive till Wednesday, like you don't want to lose that. It's
No.
invaluable. And
Uh-huh.
most people don't realize most people don't realize what good feels like. The problem is our bodies are extremely intelligent, efficient systems and our mind to boot, that we just become desensitized to how subpar or how shit we actually feel or operate on a day-to-day basis, that becomes a normal. I don't know how many times I've had people tell me their energy is great and their sleep is fantastic, and 4 weeks into working with them I was like, I've never felt like this. I was like, yeah. I,
I love that.
I wonder why.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I
It's like,
mean?
oh no, I'm grand. And you coach them, they're just like, I feel amazing. That's what it's all about. But come here, I have one for you, man, that you mentioned earlier that I'm interested in. You know, you mentioned the stress related and the emotional related eating, some periods of binging as well, you know, which can really take over some people's lives. I'm sure you may have coached people, I definitely have coached people who had those issues, you know. So how did you overcome that? You know, how's that going now? And was there a time where you completely let go of it, would you say?
I think it's like everything. I think whenever you've had any sort of kind of issue or kind of disorder of any description, I don't think you ever truly beat it, to be honest. I think for me, a lot of it came from just understanding, well, there's a couple of things. First and foremost was fucking going to therapy all those years ago and figuring out why my head was the way it was, basically. After that, then I think a lot of it becomes down to like awareness and understanding, and like it's one thing having these behaviors take over and reacting a certain way. and not knowing why or that it's even abnormal. Because if you do, how are you supposed to know you don't know in that scenario? How are you supposed to know that you should be catching this or it shouldn't be happening?
Yep.
Whereas I think when you have awareness, what I find personally is that, like, don't get me wrong, if I've had a busy run of weeks, there'll be times where you would feel that urge in the back of your mind, and that's just the only way I can describe it. But the difference is I have the understanding and awareness now to know where that is just a direct response to what has been a culmination of different things. So alongside that then as well, the whole beating it, I don't think you beat it. I just think you make the chances and the likelihood to regress minimal. And how you do that is by setting up your environment, setting up your lifestyle, your expectations, your behaviors. Like, a lot of it for me especially was, it was just like foods that were so high in sugar, like your chocolate, it was anything chocolatey, because that's typically what we reach to in times of kind of like sadness and longing. That's what the go-to is for with those emotions. So a lot of that then was, well, why are these emotions here that are leading to this response in the first place? There's no point saying to someone in that position, if you'd said to me, you're just weak and you've no willpower, that would have drove me the other way. I would have said, yeah, you're right, and I just won't do for 5 days, and then I'll have the mother of all binges, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's what it was. And I actually remember, man, like because I would have been suffered terribly with anxiety and, like I said, confidence. My PT exam all those years ago, my practical, it wasn't the exam itself, it was like the warm-up, what do you call it, the mock practical.
Oh, yeah.
Had a panic attack when they announced it, because they announced it on us as a surprise. So I straight away said, I have to go. I'm after getting a call, I have to go home. Went straight to, I think, the closest garage, pigged out in the car, and afterwards I was like, what the fuck has just happened? You know what I mean? That was the level of that's how poor it was. And even that was when I was starting to work into this game. Now, a lot of it did come from poor advice, I would say, initially, just in terms of when I was learning about it, people telling me how you should be managing things, how you should be doing things. That was just completely wrong. That exacerbated it. And then obviously you compound the emotional side of it, the fact that, like, you were dealing with all this shit internally. And I would have what I've always had, like, an addictive personality. Like, I could take to something very easily. So he used the perfect recipe. And it took years. It's only really and truly the past, probably, I would say, 2 years that I've really and truly, I'm going to say beat it in a loose term, but just gotten in control of it. And again, that has just come from doing the deep work mentally, first and foremost. It has come from aligning kind of like my environment. Stress was a big one. So over the past year, I have worked like unbelievably hard to just get on top of stress, understand where it comes from, what drives it, my sleep, anything that can possibly link to it. That's why, like, everyone laughs at me. Like, I go to bed at 9 o'clock and I'll have my phone. I try to get off my phone at 7:30. I'm up at 5. Everyone laughs. I'm called granddad at home, right? But to me, if I let these things slip, I know it's not just a matter of being tired. I know when I'm tired that all these other behaviours will start creeping in. And I don't really care what anyone says. You can be the strongest person mentally, but if your physiology is working against you, then, like, you're fighting the battle even on both fronts.
100%, man. 100%.
And now it's a thing that I can recognise it. I can recognise when a certain impulse or feeling is kicking in. And it's just a matter of just catching it. Now that I know that's what it's coming from, I can stand still and just think, well, what is this? Do I actually want something here? And if I do, genuinely, I'll have it, absolutely. But if I don't, and it's just prompted from a certain response, and I was like, right, well, now we need to be proactive here. And then I'll consciously decide to have something. And that's, for me, that's the change. It's not actually restricting, because that's just going to reinforce it all. It's just catching the thought, interrupting the pattern, and just replacing it. I'm quite big on making things a conscious choice. Like, say, people will be kind of familiar with the term cheat meals. I prefer free meals, just for the obvious reason that we've talked about.
Yep.
And I say to someone, like, never feel trapped. If you're in a position and you think you're going to have a meal off plan, don't feel trapped. Make the conscious choice to have it. And that one little shift works wonders, because you're not working from a place of scarcity or restriction or feeling like you can't have these things. You're making a conscious choice. And if you make a conscious choice to have it, you've no food, you've no kind of noise in the back of your mind that's kind of push you any different direction.
Yeah.
It's major. Like it's so important, and it's so overlooked. You will have people saying to just throw discipline and willpower at all these things, and there are people out there that's fine, because some people just don't have any issues and they have no food noise or no
Yeah.
mental noise at all.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, it's just going to cause more issues, and that's what drove me to the depths of it, was that that's what I thought it was. I'm just weak. I'm not strong enough, and yeah, there's so many different things that come into play. But like that, to anyone that's listening, I don't think you ever really truly beat these things. I think you just set your life up to minimize the chances of regression. That's all you can do.
Yeah, yeah, and you've done a phenomenal job, Lee, at just describing the experience, but also a huge tool that you've mentioned a few times here now today is interrupting the pattern and going from unconscious incompetence, not even knowing what you don't know, to conscious competence. You know what you know now, and because of that, you now have awareness, because you've done the mental work, because you've done the emotional work. And it doesn't come down to discipline and motivation and blah, 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 because that wanes up and down daily based on
Absolutely.
nutrition, sleep, accumulated fatigue. You cannot rely on that currency. So you really do have to do the deep work and just gather that awareness. And like you said, catch the thought. It's like, oh, there's the urge. There's the itch.
Yeah.
There's the thought. Where am I? What environment am I in? What stressors have happened in the last number of hours that have caused this? How was my sleep last night? What was the contents of my previous meal? And what am I going to do now with this awareness? Well, I'm going to break the pattern by whatever, standing up, walking around for 5 minutes, or whatever. So what's kind of your breaking the pattern tools? One thing that I like is just changing your posture. Getting up, going for a walk around, doing a lap around the room type thing when I start to lose focus. But yeah, what's your go-to break the pattern tools?
For me, it's just I will stop and I shake my hands. I'll just literally right in front just shake my hands, because that's just like, right, what are we doing this for? And it gives me that bit of kind of clarity to be able to then understand, what's happening here. Look, like moving as well helps. It's just anything, something that it could be literally just turning and walking away and then coming back, or just being like, let's wait 5 minutes. You know what I mean? I'd almost challenge myself. Well, look, wait 5 minutes. If you wait 5 minutes and you still want it, you can have it, right?
Exactly,
so there's a lot of different things. And then, what was I going to say? A lot of it then. So what I've started to do now is I've started to just restructure how I view these things. So when I feel like certain emotions, or like this morning, for example, for no reason at all, the mood was just extremely low. And I was like, right, everything did my fucking checklist. Everything was perfect. Nothing is actually off here. That's okay. So it's just one of those days. So what I do now is, like, when I have those thoughts and feelings, I challenge myself, do you know what? Now we need to have an extra productive day, because we're not letting this actually take control. And you know what happens? You go and you have an unbelievable hour, you get a lot done, you feel great again. You have a sense of achievement, a sense of accomplishment. But that's how I try to restructure it now, is I try just build in wins and I keep it easy, and then I build momentum, and then all of a sudden, like, it's gone out of mind. You know what I mean? Yeah. So again, I wouldn't say there's any one thing, but just whatever, if you can understand what your usual, this is actually how I talked with it through a client. So when something happens, you react or respond, or you make a choice, it isn't just that choice consciously being made in the moment. There's generally always a sequence or a number of steps that have led to this indirectly. So for example, like, let's say it's going off plan your nutrition. The issue isn't just going off plan your nutrition. The issue is there's probably a couple of tripwires that you actually tripped over beforehand that led to that. And if you can understand not just what happened here, but the 3 steps that led up to it, then the chances of success are much higher, because you're not just fighting this conscious choice now. Now you're stacking the odds extremely in your favour by understanding that this is the usual sequence. And if you can understand that sequence, you stop it earlier. If you can stop it earlier, you don't have the same emotional involvement, I find, anyway.
Brilliant. So what are those variables then beforehand? So I listed out a few that have helped clients before. Environment is one. In work, my boss is a X, makes me super stressed. Or I get to work, I get very hungry and I've nothing around me, or whatever. I have a meeting every week at Wednesday and it's very stressful, So it's just, like you said, preparation for them beforehand, doing any daily action or habit that stacks the odds in your favor that you said? So what kind of variables kind of lead up to that beforehand, do you feel?
I think environment is massive. Environment makes everything easier or harder, to be honest.
Yeah.
But alongside that, it's the innocent action. So, for example, the classic person who goes home after work and says they'll go to the gym when they sit down on the couch. Right, so we've got 3 clear things here. Number 1, the fact you're going home after work rather than going straight to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, you've gone home. And number 3, you've sat down on the couch. So the issue isn't that you didn't go to the gym. The issue is at not one point did you actually make it unavoidable or inevitable. I say same with your food. So, for example, someone who knows when they are mindlessly scrolling and there's food beside them, they'll just keep eating and eating and eating. Mm-hmm. So again, what's the issue here? The issue isn't that you kept eating. The issue is that you had the food beside you, that you maybe had a share pack rather than just a small pack. Yep. And the fact that you know that this is a behavior, but you still allowed it, you still enabled it. You know what I mean? Yep. So if you can, there's always, very nearly always, a sequence of events that lead to a certain more significant event, and if you can understand where it comes from and what it is, like it's a cheat code. And how I look at things is I try to gamify everything. So for me, a coping mechanism is just trying to compete against myself. It's like, right, well look, this is how I usually do it, but I'm going to do better, and I'm not going to do it this time. You know what I mean? And the thing is, it's more positive. For me, I'm not saying that's what everyone should do, because I know people will disagree with that, and they have disagreed. But for me, that's just what I found works. It plays to who I am naturally as a person. It makes the barriers of entry for me so much lower. You know what I mean?
Yeah, love it, man. Excellent. So listen, I want to touch on one thing there, which I think is a great conversation around, looking back at everything, childhood, school, college, our relationship with health and fitness, our own struggles in the health and fitness journey. What kind of core beliefs about, not even just health and fitness, but your own personal core beliefs as well, were shaped by those experiences, do you think?
I think I've said this time and time again, and for me, it really is just a matter of perspective, because I look at when there was times where I wasn't sure if it was going to be a tomorrow, so I'm like, right, I'm thinking this is hard and this is a tough time now, but like it doesn't compare. So that's where everything generally kind of operates from for me. So when times get tough, it's like, right, well, yeah, times might be tough. It's not fucking nice, but ultimately it's nowhere near as bad as it would be. And this problem back then I would have seen as paradise. I never would have thought back then that these are the problems I'm privileged to have now. So that's kind of where everything stems from for me. It's why when the odds are up against me, it's right, just grit in, dig in, work. And that kind of leads on to number 2. I firmly believe hard work is literally all that's required to achieve any goal. If you happen to have a reasonable level of intelligence, even better again. And if you happen to be a nice person, again, better again, right? But hard work really is all it takes. It really is. And if you're willing to just work hard enough for long enough and realistically do more than everyone else, you're going to win. The only way you lose, Dave, and you said these exact words to me, is the only way you win is if you give up. And then kind of the final kind of close of that little loop is your actions will always dictate your results, right? Yeah. So I know the goals I have and the life I want to build is ambitious, and they're things that maybe some people will never be able to work towards. Maybe they don't want to, right? The places I want to go are like same as yourself. They're up here. Mm-hmm. So with that said, if you want to get somewhere where not many people go to, you have to do the work that most people won't do. And that links back to point number 2, just work hard enough and don't give up. Links back to point number 1, that right, this is a tough time, but it's not as tough as it was. So that's the kind of little ecosystem for me.
Love it.
That's kind of what kind of runs around in my mind.
I love it. Man, you need to make an image of that, and it's a circle. And it's just, it's your little values there, work hard for long enough, never give up, ambition, this is hard, but it's not as hard as when it was really hard. This kind of pressure is a privilege type thing. So I love it, man. I can see that. It's just a continuous loop, you know what I mean? So well done, bro.
What about yourself, Dave? What about yourself?
Yeah, man. I'll tell you one thing now is I love the conversation around personal values, and I'll tell you why. So when I was setting up Connect the Coaching back in COVID, it was Jesus. I'm after getting chills saying that, just because as weird of a time as it was, I experienced for the first time what I do with an abundance of time. And what I do in
Yeah.
abundance of time is always, always, ever since that day, is work on Connect the Coaching. I always feel that pull towards it. You know what I mean? Anytime, like, best mates and back home, even my mother, is like, how are you getting on? And at some point in that 10-minute voice note, I'm mentioning that. I just can't get it out of my mind, and that is a sign, a massive, massive sign. So, in the process of setting up that business, I was doing a nutrition coaching course at the time, Precision Nutrition, fantastic course. And the original CEO of that course, his name is John Berardi. You've ever heard of him?
Yeah.
So John Berardi then went away from Precision Nutrition. Don't know if he's still with him or not, but he set up his own thing called Change Makers. And this was all about finding satisfaction in your career, okay? And read his book. And in his book, he also had an ebook. He had some activities, and one of the activities was kind of writing down your values on, in business and stuff like that. Number one is like a personality test, find out what you're good at in regards to your personality and all that, and then leverage that, move towards that, create products that are in alignment with your superpowers. And also just be aware of your values, so you make sure that you're attracting people that you can help based on your superpowers, and that also are in alignment with your values as well. So you have just very little coach-client friction, and you're both enjoying it, right? So in that process, man, it was just eye-opening, and I just absolutely loved it. Do you know what I mean? So what I came up with was the biggest one, and people always say this, but I do love it, is the word empathy. You know what I mean? Like, sympathy is that you feel sorry for someone. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, X, Y, and Z has happened, or someone has passed away, and you say, oh, I feel sorry for you. Do you know what I mean? That's, to me, that's empathy. But empathy is also feeling the same emotion that they're feeling. Do you know what I mean? If your partner feels sad, like, you take that on with them, and you truly put yourself in their shoes. You know what I mean? And not try and fix it or anything like that, but truly understand and give time and space for them to feel that emotion. To me, that is empathy, and I found that that's an absolute superpower in coaching, man. And I love that. I really, really do love that. So anytime I get to express that and display that, I just love it, man, because I don't think there's enough of it around. You know what I mean? And anytime I find someone with also a good amount of empathy, I connect them on a great level. I don't even know what the opposite of empathy is. The word is leaving my mind now. But I really, my second value is also respect. So if a person is really unempathetic, if that's the word, and very disrespectful, I get triggered bad off those people, man. I get triggered bad. You know what I mean? I'm just like,
I'd be the same.
There's something going on with you, my friend, and you need to go do the
It's
mental and
almost
emotional work.
narcissistic, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh man, I just can't. I can't. And I'm completely okay saying this as well. I hope a million people listen to this podcast one day and just find out that I have absolutely no respect for people like that, because you are like that because of maybe your upbringing, maybe some traumatic event. You may or may not be aware of that, but you're also just not doing the work to let that go. You know what I'm saying?
I'd die on that hill.
So, and I will die on that hill with you, man. So I have massive respect for people who have self-awareness of their own limitations, which we all do have our own limitations, and do the work to make sure that it's not impacting society. Do you know what I mean? That you are a positive impact on the environments that you interact with every day. I literally have that on my CV. It's just like objective, and it's just like to move towards coach and mastery and have a positive impact on all the environments that I engage with. That's literally it. And I love that. You know what I mean? So in alignment with that ambition, love it. But I also realize that I've never really been kind of ambitious or competitive to other people. I have been in a healthy way, but it's always kind of more so from myself to myself. You know what I mean? Just always trying to be better than I was. I can't tell you how many times I went and thought that the next step was the step. You know, like, oh, this course is going to be it now. You know, like it's been so expensive. This is going to send me to the moon, and then you finish that, and you're like, oh, I've actually more questions than I've had. that is the process of a growth mindset, I suppose. And then last one, man, last two is just being authentic. You know what I mean? Trying to be yourself as much as you can. I think in school especially, or as a young adult, people might be suppressing that a little bit more than they are going into their 30s. Like I am a trance loving, rave loving, wrestling loving, gym loving chap. You know what I mean? And like, how can my PT also love the rave and the trance and all that? I'm just like, well, I'm your guy if that's what you love. You know what I mean? And I remember there was a time where I was just like maybe keeping that under wraps. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, can I really put up the rave I was at on the weekend? I'm just like, no, you absolutely can, because that's who you are, and you're a human being. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
And I love that as well, because it just gives other people permission to be wholeheartedly themselves as well. So as long as you're not a disrespectful, unempathetic dickhead, be authentic. You know what I mean? And even if you are, be authentic anyway. So then people like me can just choose to keep you at double arm's length. Do you know what I mean? And just to spend minimal time with you.
But that's it. And I think
it,
everything you've said there, like if I heard connected coaching, like it all just makes sense.
Yeah.
It all just makes sense. It's like this full spectrum of it, really, which I think is really cool, because that name gives insight into everything that you embody and what you've discussed.
Yeah, yeah. And I love it because, look, hopefully one day it'll be bigger, you know what I mean? But that's what it is, man. That is the ethos, you know? And I just want the coaching journey just to be all about those things. And I want my clients to experience that, because that's who I truly am. You know what I mean? And look, that was, what am I now, 2020? That was 7 years ago now. You know what I mean? And it hasn't changed that much. When I look at those words every now and again, man, I'm just like, no, it's still the same. You know what I mean? It's still the same.
It hasn't changed that much. To be able to say that. But that's amazing.
It is.
Like 7 years in, your message is still very much the same.
It is. I love it. So look, let's leave it there, bro. I have to jump on another call there soon. But if anyone has made it this far, lads, just thank you as always. I really hope that you've got a good insight into the essence of myself and into the essence of Lee, in an industry like coaching, performance coaching, online or in person. It's a wonderful industry. There's a lot of people, right? And there's a lot of people with very, very similar skills. And I think something like this can just help you to choose what kind of coach is right for you. And I think these days a lot of it is, who do you resonate with? You know what I mean? Number one, they got to have a good track record in getting people results, being ethical, but also who do you resonate with? You know what I mean? Who has overcome the problem that you have, or who's a proven track record of solving the problem that you have? You know what I mean? So just, it's not all about the before and after picture, but it's also just making sure that you're choosing someone that is ethical, has your long-term health at heart, and that you can have the buzz with along the way. You know what I mean? So that's us. So next week, guys, we have a great guest for next week, one of Lee's contacts. So Lee will tell you a little bit more about that now.
So next week we have the privilege of having Mark from Benchmark Coaching come on the podcast, and this promises to be an amazing episode. So Mark is and has been on his own journey. I'm not going to share too much on it, but that is very much the aim of his mission next week. But this man has hit the bottom of the barrel. He has lost everything he once held true to himself, and he has rebuilt. So it really is a story of struggle and challenge, but also everything that we have discussed and what we like to embody ourselves. And it's just accepting that vulnerability, understanding the work has to be done, doing the work, and then coming back and just building that unshakable mindset, knowing that nothing is ever going to match up to how tough times are when you're at the bottom. Yeah. So we very much look forward to welcoming Mark on board. Looking forward to hearing any and all questions, anything around you want to ask him, please just let us know. And alongside that, anyone, like Dave mentioned, who relates to anything that we have mentioned today, that may just want to talk a small bit more, please, by all means, reach out.
Love it. Have a great week, lads. See you next week.